We're going to start off with installing the evaporator into the evaporator core housing. Installing our seals. We look at the AIM FAM, Factory Assembly Manual. It gives you a specification on the thickness of the sealing material around the housing, and this is nowhere close to what it is saying, so we're going to go with the butyl tape and seal it up that way. So when this is shipped out, these tabs are bent over, except for this one. All right, you see that? So we're going to bend these tabs to where we got the proper standoff. For the hoses, right? The suction and the pressure line for the evaporator. Actually, that looks about good. I just had them bent straight up, but that didn't give me the proper standoff. Now there is a, all right. So there is a proper way to install these, what's the proper word? Core inlet pipe seal and core outlet pipe seal. So I guess the little notches face upwards. These little notches right here. And then we slide it into the housing. Okay. There's 3 bolts that hold that in. Then we just throw them all over the place. Alright, so it's going to be the bolts with the largest washer that are used to hold the evaporator into the housing. And it's a different size head on the bolt, so it's the smaller one. Just trying to make sure that that seal is properly seated. All right, I'm going to get an extension. I'm going to have to bend this hose only because we're going with, as I keep saying, the valve and receiver eliminator kit. And we got to kind of get this hose lined up through this seal anyway. How are we going to do that? Maybe cut a slit in that? Why not? There we go. We'll see how that works out. That looks pretty good. Then we'll put our butyl tape around the edge of that. I touched it against itself and right, let's see how that works out. All right, we got to put our evaporator seal. What is it? Evaporator housing seal to blower motor gasket. All right, this is new old stock, so there is going to be some distortion over time. All you got to do is kind of massage the seal, pull it a little bit. If it rips, then you can glue it together. See, I kind of ripped it a little bit, and I just threw in some weather seal. Weather strip sealant, the glue. All right, oh, it's right over here. That comes with, it's the Dynatex yellow super weather strip and gasket adhesive. That comes with the Corvette weather stripping kit. And there is a certain way that this goes in. We get a little test fit going on. Make sure that's the right way. We'll flip it upside down. Yeah, I think that's it. So there's these little recesses around. You see that? There's a recess that lines up with these raised areas. So I guess the recesses go in towards the blower motor housing. All right, that's what we'll do. We'll you could either use some kind of spray adhesive, or we'll use the weather stripping. I like the spray adhesive because it'll tack up faster. Now all we need to do is just hit maybe the corners and the middle just to kind of hold it into place when we slide the evaporator in. Okay, yeah, that's what we'll do. So we'll take it off, we'll spray the corner, maybe the middle, because this side kind of is pinched in with the metal housing over here. I might add, this would be a good time to maybe put some JB weld on the bolt holes that hold the valve in receiver dryer. There's a bracket that mounts to the outside of this housing. When you take it out, there's bolt holes. So I'm going to use some JB weld and plug up the holes, and then we'll put the evaporator in. And now I'll just hold it in place and see you in a little bit. All right, so we just glued it up, set it in place. It didn't take that long. Now we're going to get our box and slip it in. Let's see how that goes. You know what? I'm going to have to remove the overflow tank. I put it in there because I was actually driving the vehicle around. So give me a minute. All right, we got it in place. I see a lot of gaps and whatnot, so what I'm able to do now is that I got it kind of in place. I'm going to check underneath, see what's going on, see if the gasket moved out of place or whatever. But the hard part was getting the inner seal off of the evaporator. When you're kind of pushing it down, it wants to peel it off. So now that the hard part is done, take the time to look around the edges, see what's not sealing properly, push it up against the housing, see where it's not touching, not sealing all the way around, and then address those areas. And we're going to direct our attention to the inside of the vehicle. There's a screw up against the floorboard. That we put in, and that'll pull the housing closer to the firewall on the outside, and that might help us with some of that clearance issue we're having out there. So I'm going to tighten this up, and then we'll go back outside to the engine compartment. There are two aluminum shims that go at the top of the box. If you don't have those, then somebody's been in it before. That's all they are, just aluminum washers. Now that gap is a little extreme. Alright, so we'll see how that looks once we kind of tighten it up. It's still a big gap in there, so I'll just have to load that up with some of that butyl tape. Alright, before we go under the vehicle, what I want to do is address some of the wiring harness up here, get it laid out, put it into proper mounting locations, readdress some of the wire wrapping. And then before we get too involved with buttoning everything up, hooking up the blower motor, see if that works. Would have been smart to probably hook it up to a power source before putting it in, since we're getting to the point where you can't trust stuff that's coming brand new out of the box. We're getting to the point where we can hook up let me get my thoughts here. We're getting to the point where we can hook up the heat shield. Yeah, I think that's it. Hook up the blower motor resistor. Put it in a hole so it's not shorting out to a ground somewhere. All right, I'm gonna go turn the key on, turn the blower motor on, see what's up. Wah, wah. Nothing. Don't think my ground was attached. I'm hoping. Nothing. Can you see that? That wasn't even connected, so I thought it was connected. I can't even fit my hand in there. Nope. All right. That might help. All right, that felt like it went in. Let's see. Nothing. I don't know. Might help if I actually turned. Well, I'll show you. I had it off. All right. And I'm sitting here messing with the so I don't have a second speed, third, fourth. So the resistor might be out. Let me shut the key off. All right. All right. So we got something going on with the resistor here. No biggie. All right, we got our blower motor resistor gasket from Doc Repair. There's a part number, docrepair.com. All right, you get the point. All right, so underneath we have a sheet metal screw, 2 screws for the lower housing, and then one up against the firewall. All right, and the seal looks kind of good from down here underneath up against the firewall. All right, but when we get up towards the middle of the box and up top, there's a big gap. So we'll fill that in with some of that butyl tape. All right, let's address some of these gaps. All right, we'll loosen the housing up a little bit, push it back, and then we'll jam some more of this butyl tape in there and see if that fixes any of the problems. Where you guys at? I got it somewhat loaded up, so we'll tighten it up, see what we got. And then if I need to, I'll just pack a bunch of it around the edge. Kind of seemed like that's what the factory did. And when I was putting it in, I had completely pushed the seal down past the housing, so I had to lift it back out, which gave the impression of a large gap. Just snug. You don't want to crank it down. This stuff's only fiberglass. You'll blow right through the threads. And alright, it looks really horrible, but it looks like it's sealed, so I think I'm happy with that. So then now I got to do is wait for some stuff to show up for the condenser up front, and then I think we'll move on now to the eliminator block for the valve and receiver eliminator kit, which will be working down in this area. Can you even see that? Barely. All right. There's some seals on the lines that we got to lube up. That way we don't rip them when we're installing them onto the valve and receiver eliminator block. I'll show you what we're working with. Okay. Now you do have to bend the oil return line, which is the smallest of the three coming off of the evaporator, to line it up into the block. But it's a small hose, just, you know, be careful. We'll pull the seal off of the, not all the way off of the hose. We'll just leave it just a little, you know, pull it back off so we don't have to put it back on. We'll lube up the seal on the evaporator line, the lower evaporator line. We'll pull the seal forward a little bit on the oil return line. That's a tiny seal. We'll lube those up, and then we'll install the block. Kind of have to pull the oil return line up, and like I said, this thing only goes on one way. All right, so you're not going to put it on wrong. Probably be super easy to put it on from underneath. So that's what I'll do. I don't even know if you can you even see the hoses down there? All right. I got this snugged up by hand. Yeah. All right.